In my first video about the parts of an essay, we talked about the introductory paragraph. So to quickly review, we talked about the two main purposes of the introductory paragraph as being to introduce the main topic of the essay and to help the reader get interested in your topic and in your paper. If the topic in your essay is complex or requires some background information, the introductory paragraph can also be a great place to provide that information. And we always note that the introductory paragraph does not give any main points or details from the body. So we know the introductory paragraph needs to introduce the main topic and get the reader interested, but how exactly we do that is pretty open. There's some flexibility, which means your introduction is a place where you can be a little bit creative. That can be exciting if you like to write, or it can be a little bit intimidating. So we're going to talk about a few techniques that work really well for introducing a topic and getting the reader interested. We're going to look at three main techniques for writing an introduction. Usually one of these three can work quite well. So the first one is general to specific. The second one is an anecdote. And the third one is what I call a reversal. Okay, so the general to specific technique is the funnel shape that we talked about last time, or the V shape, you could say. So if we think about the essay example from last time, we were writing about entrepreneurial immigrants, right? So in a general to specific introduction, you might start in general by talking about immigrants in the US. And then, so that would be your most general topic, right? Immigrants. And then you might start talking about their contributions. So immigrants contribute to the US in many ways. Some of our best scientists are immigrants. Some of the most cutting edge technology comes from immigrants. And then you might get even closer to our main topic and talk about immigrants in business. Immigrants tend to open a lot of businesses in the US. Then you might pose the question of why? Why is it that businesses are so frequently started by new immigrants to the US? And that will lead you all the way to our thesis statement, which, if you recall, talked about two of the reasons that immigrants tend to be more entrepreneurial. So let's take a look at our second technique, an anecdote. And another word for an anecdote is a story. So in this case, you want to make sure that you're using a story that really illustrates well the main point of your essay. And it's really a plus if it's a true story. True stories have more detail and they're usually more interesting. So if we go back to that same entrepreneurial immigrant essay, recall that this is the technique that that essay used. It started with a story of an entrepreneurial immigrant. Entrepreneurial. I get bonus points for spelling that. So this was an entrepreneurial immigrant who saw an opportunity for a new business. Remember, he started a business fixing things that people usually throw away. So it was also an environmentally friendly business idea. So that essay introduction uses the story as a jumping off point, and the next step after the story was to ask why. Why are so many immigrants like that person in the story? So you always want to make that connection between the story and what comes next, right? So just like the person in the story, so many immigrants are entrepreneurial. And why? Why is that? And that again brings us to our topic sentence. In that case, it was about reasons that immigrants are entrepreneurial, like we said. So we're going to look at our third type today, along with your new essay example. And the third type of introduction I call a reversal, because you start off going in one direction and then you turn around and you come back, like putting your car in reverse. So you start off with some version of many people think. You find a fancier way to put it, right? But many people think A, something, and you discuss A. And then you do a reversal and say, however, A is wrong for some reason. A is not true. In fact, the reality is B. So that's the general structure of it, but we will use a real essay example to illustrate. The example essay that you read today is an example of a reversal introduction. So let's take a look. It's common to hear unfavorable opinions about undocumented immigrants. So this is our A, right? Many people think A. Our current president was elected on the promise to build a wall to cut off immigration at the southern border. So that's more information about A. People in favor of restricting immigration and cracking down on undocumented immigrants paint a pretty dark picture. They say that undocumented immigrants bring crime to our country and become an economic burden. They bring up examples of immigrant murderers, drug dealers, and welfare recipients. Okay, so all of this is giving more detail about opinion A or idea A. Next, you're going to see where we make our reversal. While. So while is a type of contrast transition word, like although, even though, or while. While you can always find examples to support any stereotype, people with these anti-immigrant attitudes ignore some basic, indisputable facts. So here I'm saying A is wrong. The truth is that undocumented immigrants are far less likely to commit crimes and are a great financial benefit to our country. So my thesis statement says, actually, B, the opposite. All right, so that is an example of a reversal intro, and I think also a structure that will work great for the essay that you are working on right now about some false ideas people have about history. If you have a different idea about how to write your introduction, you are definitely welcome to try that out as well. Now let's review our concluding paragraph information. You'll remember that the purpose of your concluding paragraph is to help the reader remember your main points and make the paper feel finished. And so you're going to restate your thesis statement and review your main points. So you can do just that, or you can also incorporate more technique to your conclusion. Let's also note once again that your conclusion is not a place to bring up any new points or evidence. And you do want to find a way to make your concluding paragraph feel finished at the end. And so we often recommend something like a final comment, a thought, or a hope. So in your concluding paragraph, you can just do a straight review of your main points, plus final comment. That can work just fine. Just make sure that you are reviewing your main points enough so that we remember them, and that you use the same order that your paper uses. Put those main points in the same order. So you always need that review of your main points in the conclusion, but if you want to, you can also fancy it up by using another technique. And something that works really well is to use again, right? Reuse the technique from the introduction. So if you use a story, you can recall that story at the end. Of course, you will not tell the whole story again, but you can say, hey, remember that story at the beginning about the immigrant that was successful in business? Well, that's a story that's repeated over and over again in the US, right? So kind of call back that story and use it again in your conclusion. Or you could use the reversal again. But if you use that reversal in your introduction, you want to make sure that you're using it in a fresh way. You're not just cutting and pasting from your introduction. So you're bringing something new to it at the end. And then you still will have that review of your main points and add the final comment at the end. So let's look at that in action. This is the concluding paragraph from the sample essay about immigration myths. So let's take a look. Immigration is a controversial topic in American politics today. Politicians seem to blame a host of problems on the undocumented people who come to the U.S. for a better life. We hear that they are drug dealers, criminals, and leeches who only take and never give. So this sounds a lot like the introduction, right? So this is also looking like a reversal. And then here is the reversal statement right here. We shouldn't buy into their falsehoods. So here's our A, and here's our A is wrong. And then I'm assuming the rest will say actually B. People trying to build a better future for themselves don't bring crime. They have significantly less criminal behavior and drug use than people born in the US. So in my actually B, I am going through the main points, right? So main point 1 was about immigrants not bringing crime. They have significantly less criminal behavior. So main point one. Restatement of main point one. Okay, they don't come here to be lazy and take, quite the contrary. They are hardworking contributors to our economy who pay taxes into a retirement system they can never draw from. Talk to any farmer and they will tell you America's farms can't put food on the table without the hard labor of undocumented immigrants. So here, all of this part is our review of point two, or our restatement. Then don't listen to the politicians who blame economic and social problems on other people just to get elected. They play on harmful stereotypes that have no basis in reality. Immigrants, documented or not, come to this country for the same purpose that my European ancestors did, to find better opportunities and build a brighter future for their families. So at the end, we see, this is my final comment. And in this case, it's a political comment. It kind of goes into my belief system about the world, right? So your final comment can really have more opinion than the rest of your paper. You can show a little bit more opinion here and connect your paper to things in the real world, or things you'd like to see change in the future. All right, I hope that gives you some good ideas for writing your own introduction and conclusion for your essay. Good luck.